the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. My name is Brian Wallace, and I am the MS Michigan Man 64. The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast is about chronic disease awareness. I have had multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. It's an invisible chronic disease that I've been battling for half of my life. I want to share with you what it is like living with the chronic disease from my experiences and the experiences of other chronic disease warriors. We can fight to have a voice to those that want to listen. Together, we can motivate and educate. Hi, and welcome to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. Today, I am sitting down with a MSer from the state of North Carolina. He just recently got diagnosed in 2024. He battled his symptoms for about a year before previously with that. And I want to welcome to the podcast, Phillip. How are you doing today, Phillip?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing all right, buddy. So, Phillip, you just got diagnosed within the last year or so. Can you kind of take us on your journey and what led up to your diagnosis, your symptoms you were having? What kind of gave the red flag that something was not right with your body?
Yeah, for me, it started with what I thought was vertigo, and it was my eyes, my vision. And I took a lot of Dramamine trying to just get past vertigo. And that happened like 3 different times, and it lasted about 2 weeks each time before I actually went to my doctor.
So were you like to the point where you were falling vertigo, or it was just like a dizzy feeling? And what did your doctor say when you went to the doctor?
It was really dizzy. It was dizzy, and it was almost like a depth perception off with my vision. And when I went to the doctor, I went to my family doctor first, and I told her what was going on, and I told her I thought it was vertigo, and my right leg would sometimes just go numb, and I would lose my balance and fall.
Yeah.
And she told me to come back if it's not better within 2 or 3 weeks, but I never went back.
Oh.
So then December of 2023, I went to the eye doctor because it was time for an eye doctor checkup, and I had a blur in my right eye, and he said my vision was 20/70, and he looked in my eyes, and that's when he started talking about MS. At that point, I had never heard of MS.
Gotcha. So he kind of like got the ball rolling. So when he mentioned MS and with your optic nerve and all that, so what happened then? So did you go see a neurologist then, or how did that go?
Then the eye doctor wanted me to go back to my family doctor, and he talked to her, and she said that she already had MS in her mind. She was thinking MS, and that's when my family doctor sent me to a neurologist.
Okay.
And she wanted me to go get an MRI, and that ended up going to get a spinal tap. And that's when I was diagnosed in April of 2024 with MS.
Gotcha. So with that diagnosis, Phillip, how did that affect you mentally? I understand that you didn't really know what multiple sclerosis was, but you had to have gone to Google real quick, just like everybody else does. How did you accept that diagnosis? Like from what you researched?
I just accepted it because I didn't feel like I was in real bad shape, and I still didn't fully understand what MS was. But when I went to Google, some of the first things I started researching was, am I going to be handicapped? Am I going to be in a wheelchair?
Right.
what's the life expectancy for MS?
Right.
I had all kinds of stuff going through my mind.
Yep. Everybody does. Yeah. I was the same way, Philip. Um, I was back in 1997. Unfortunately, there was no internet, and yeah, I know that feeling. I mean, it's a scary feeling because you just get told that you got a chronic disease. You're never going to get better. You're never, you're either going to be staying the same or you might be getting worse. That's just the plain hard facts of the disease. And it really does affect mentally. I know I struggled with that. But I didn't run from it. I kind of accepted the challenge. I had my football mindset, playing at Michigan, blah, 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 all that. And when that doctor told me I had MS, I'm like, all right, man, game on, let's go. Let's attack this disease. And it kind of, and that's why I like talking to you, Philip. You're so newly diagnosed, but that just seems like the attitude that you have. You're like, okay, I got MS. Now I'm going to learn about it, and I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I'm just going to live with it and learn how to live the best that I can with it. And I love that about you, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, you cry about it and it still doesn't change it because you're still going to have MS. So
Yep.
you got to find out how to deal with it and continue moving on.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. And it's hard. And I'm not going to lie. I've been doing it 27 years, and there's been times where just want to say I'm done. But to go into it with that attitude is so huge, and I tip my hat to you, buddy, because you're on the right path. You're on the right path in the right attitude. Talk about let's talk about how the diagnosis affected. Like you're married. I know Jessica. I watch her videos. She's such a sweetheart. How did that affect your wife, Jessica, when she found out? Because she didn't know anything about MS, and you didn't have it when you guys got married. You guys just got married couple of years ago. So talk about how that affected. How did she accept that diagnosis?
Yeah, I think it honestly affected her more than it affected me mentally. She's cried about it so much. She's talked to some of her friends that have MS, and uh, she's been a real trooper. I'm glad that she's my wife because anybody else and I've seen it happen. It's quick for them to walk away.
Yeah.
You don't want to be with someone with MS, but Jessica, she's been my number one.
I can tell that about her, Philip. I could just see it in her eyes that she's behind you, and that's so important. Support is so important. Family support, whether it's your brother, sister, even your friends, because you're going to have friends that are going to walk away from you too. I've lost a lot of friends because of this disease, and it's just the nature of the beast. But it's so important to have that partner that understands. And again, I tip my hat to Jessica because that is a huge thing too.
Yeah, Jessica's really done a lot of research, even stuff that I don't know about. She tells me about, do you experience this because I researched this? Or she's on top of stuff. She's my untrained neurologist at home.
That is so awesome, man. That is so, I'm lucky to have a wife just like that too. And I think that is so important for, if you do get diagnosed, to have a spouse that's, I mean, I understand that they're not the one to get diagnosed, but they need to at least learn about it with you, to try to support you, because they're in for a wild ride too. I can tell you, my wife's she's seen a lot of things with this disease, and it's a hard thing. It's very difficult, but it's very important in thriving with this disease.
Yeah, I tell Jessica all the time, I appreciate that you're learning about MS, but I'm so glad and I hope you never have to experience what it feels like.
Yeah, it's not a fun feeling. So when when you got diagnosed, and I know, some people they try to handle it on their own, like I did for probably 15 years of my diagnosis. Do you and I have a counselor, and I am actually on an antidepressant now. I figured out that I needed that about 15 years in. Do you do any kind of therapy with your mental health, or are you just trying to shrug it out on your own right now?
Yeah, I just do it on my own, and I try to acknowledge that you can't fix everything. So
Right.
don't stress yourself over stuff that you can't control.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. So, what do you do to for your mental health? What do you do to try to um, take your mind off of the MS? What tools do you use to just kind of keep your mind motivated and not be depressed?
Nothing really. I just try to continue keeping on and
Just
sit down and relax as needed and just keep on.
yeah, yeah, and that's all we can do. Because like I have told a lot of people that have had this disease, we can't just sit here and feel sorry for ourselves. You know, it's not going to make the disease go away. So why do it? Um, live the best life you can. I still golfed up for 15 years into my diagnosis. You could still do things. It's not the end of the road. You could still have a lot of fun. You're going to have your bad moments, and I think that's what I hear a lot in your voice is that I got MS, but I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm still going to keep on being 100 proof.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think about, and I think it helps me, is just like a lot of people, you have friends, I have friends that passed away for different reasons at a young age. So if MS is all the world is going to throw at me, I'm going to find a way to get through this because I'm thankful to still be here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, brother. And we got to enjoy what we can. You are still upright and functioning. You still are able to work. You are still able to have a family, a wife, a mother, father, brothers, sisters. You're still able to have a great life with MS. It is not the end of the road.
Yeah, and my older brother, he's also very supportive, and he don't want to talk about it much, but I can tell he's very supportive of me, and it that stuff like that just means a lot to you, you know.
It does. It means a lot. It's the best thing for your mental health is to have support. Now, are your friends real supportive too? You got a good circle of friends.
Yeah, the friends that I have, yeah, yeah, they are. Uh, and just like you, I've lost a lot of friends, but the real friends, they're supportive. They're still here.
Awesome. So let's talk about your DMT. I know that you're new in your journey and all that. What was their DMT that they chose for you?
The first DMT they talked about was Ocrevus, and then my neurologist said there's a new one called Briumvi, and she said you're gonna probably go through a couple different DMTs until you find the one that's right for you.
Hmm.
And I started off with Briumvi, and luckily I haven't changed.
Okay.
I like Briumvi, and hopefully it never does me wrong, and I'll just continue taking that.
That's awesome. Yeah, your neurologist is right. A lot of times the DMT is a little bit of a journey itself. When I first got diagnosed, I was on Avonex, which is a an injection once a week. And when I first got put on Avonex, I would take that shot on Friday, and I would be sick Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, only to get better to go to work on Monday. And I did that for a month, and I went to my neurologist. I'm like, I can't do this, doc. I literally, I have no life. I go to work. I work 40 hours. I come home. I'm sick all weekend. And he put me on Capaxin, and I did Capaxin for 15 years. My body liked it. I didn't have any problems. So the DMT is definitely a trial and error sometime, but that is so awesome that you responded well to Briumvi.
Yeah, and even on the DMTs, some of the stuff that I still can't do is I can't look straight up. If I look straight up when I try to look back normal, I'll lose my balance and fall, and I can't look down, and I can't walk and look left. Like me and Jessica will be coming out of a store, she'll grab me and she don't want me to walk across the road and look left and right for a vehicle. She wants to look for me
Right.
and say, "Okay, we can go."
Yeah. Yeah. But I get it. I get it, Philip. There's we adjust. I mean, there's certain things that I can't do anymore either that my wife has to help me with. But I get the vision thing, and my eyes are my biggest nemesis with this MS. That's been my battle, and I have a very hard time with depth perception. And we just got to figure out how to do things that's safe for us. And if it's safe for your wife to look left and right, then I'm all for it because don't want to be falling and getting hit by a car, right?
Yeah, yeah, she's very supportive when she's out and about with me, and I just keep on thinking, I got this. I
Yeah.
don't need help. But in all reality, I do need help. She don't let me drive at nighttime because headlights shining back at me at nighttime,
Yeah.
it messes me up a little bit. And she don't like me driving if she's available to drive.
Yep. You know what, Philip? My wife is exactly the same way. When we go anywhere, she drives because she knows that my eyes aren't the best. And, it's hard to admit as a guy, especially, that, my wife has to drive me around because my eyes suck. But, it is what it is. I'm not gonna let that shut me down. It is what it is. And I know she's looking out for me, and I appreciate that because we need the support. We can't do everything on our own anymore, and it's hard to admit that. It's so hard.
It is. I joke around with Jessica a lot and I tell her, don't forget that I taught you how to drive. I helped you get licensed, and now you're telling me I can't drive?
That's funny shit. That's hilarious. That's good shit. Philip, what if you had, and I just love your attitude, and I want you to give a message to anybody that is new like you in a diagnosis, what you would tell them to kind of give them the support as to keep on fighting this disease, because you're new, and your mentality is fresh with this disease, and I want to hear how you're attacking it, just so other people can hear that are in the same situation. They're a year or two into this diagnosis. Tell me how you attack this thing mentally.
Mentally, I would say stay strong, continue keeping on, and MS is not good, but things could be worse. You could be dead from something else. Just keep on, stay strong, and do what you got to do to continue keeping on, and do what you need to do, and relax, and just take it easy because you're not able to do some of the stuff that you used to do. You just got to find new ways of life to continue keeping on. You're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
This is not a death sentence.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Philip. This is not a death sentence. Like I said, I'm 27 years. I'm living proof. This is not a death sentence. You can still live. And there's no doubt in my mind that you and Jessica are going to live a good, long, happy life together, and you're going to be fine. Because you got the attitude, You're going to fight. It doesn't matter what MS throws at you. I know that you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure shit out just like we all do. MSers figure shit out.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I have found that I'm not good at, it's not going up steps. I can go up steps, but I notice that around my quads, they feel weaker when I'm trying to go down steps. And that's how I could lose my balance going down steps.
Yeah.
But I still, in my house, I go up and down the steps. My brother don't want me going up and down the steps, but I do because I'm not going to be stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to figure it out, and that's what MSers do. Um, I lived in a house that had steps when I first got diagnosed, and I lived in that house for 15 years. And, it got to a point where I had to sell that house and I had to go into a house that didn't have steps. But, the point is that we adjust and we don't quit. We just keep on going. We figure it out. And we keep on moving.
Yeah. Like my laundry is in the basement. My brother has said before, he said, call me. I don't want you going up and down them steps. I will come do your laundry if I have to. Jessica Jessica does not want me going up and down the steps. So that's good. If Jessica wants to do the laundry, that means I don't have to.
There you go. Hey, win-win, right?
Yeah.
Right. Philip, man, I really appreciate you coming on with me and just talking about MS. I wish more people would just try to understand this disease a little bit better. It's not, like you said, it's not a death sentence. It's not a fun disease. It's not something that I would wish on anybody, but it's definitely something that we can live with.
Yes. And also, the internet is very, very big. So, and I'll look at people like you who's been diagnosed 27 years, and you are a lot of keeping me going. If you can go 27 years, I'm going to do what you're doing. I'm going to go 27 years. So you're right. It's not a death sentence. You just got to explore and understand and connect and just see what someone else with MS is doing and how they're battling
Yeah.
different stuff.
Yeah, God, it's so well said, Philip. And my MS is not going to be the same as your MS, But I watched this guy over in the UK, on TikTok, and I don't know if you're friends with him too. His name's Swab, but the guy has MS and he's in a wheelchair and he lost the ability to talk. And but you watch his videos and this guy is just so positive. He's always smiling. And he uses different ways to communicate. It's just fascinating to watch this guy and his attitude and how he is just never ever going to let MS shut him down.
Yeah, you're right. Everybody's MS is different. And I'm thankful to be walking because I see people on TikTok and they're in a wheelchair. They can't walk. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thankful to still be walking. So everyone's MS is different. When you got PPMS, RRMS, there's different MS.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that's kind of the thing that I try to tell people that are new in this disease. It's not I hope to God you make it 50 years still upright and mobile. But the fact is that no matter what this disease brings to you, you can't stop fighting. When I started having to use a cane, I didn't want to, but I did because that was how I was able to keep on moving. If I wanted to go see my daughter play a softball game, I got in a wheelchair because I didn't want to miss her playing softball. So you just figure it out, and because you don't want to miss life, you don't want to miss life. You just got to figure it out and stay calm as you can, and just figure out how to get something done differently.
Yeah. And when I had my spinal tap, I went to my neurologist and she told me then, and I still don't understand the O bands. She told me then, she said, you have 12.9 O bands. How are you walking in here and you look so good walking? I don't know. You just got to keep on keeping on because from looking at other people, I have learned that when you lay down and quit, that's when it's over.
Yep.
You cannot stop. Don't lay down and quit.
Yep. Absolutely. And I try to use a lot of the attitude that I learned playing football at the University of Michigan. And I know you were a football player too. And I think that's just something how we're wired. When you're an athlete, you never take no. You always try to figure out a way to get around an obstacle, as an athlete. And that's kind of the way that I attack it. And that's kind of the way I see you attack an MS.
Yeah, and that's honestly something that I still need to work on. I'll get my friends over at my house and we'll have a drink and we'll go outside and we'll do a 3-point stance. And I can't do what I used to do. So stop trying. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I just don't want to stop. I would like to take Jessica to go watch my old team play, but I know what that's going to turn into. If I take her out there, it's going to turn into me running the chains and all kinds of stuff. And
Wanting to get involved.
even though I look like I'm able, and so anyone else would say, "Oh, you're good. You can do this," but I can't. It's an invisible disease, and I'm not willing to say no.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that, Philip. But I just love your attitude, man. I got a feeling you're going to do well. I can't predict if you're going to be standing in 5 or 10 years, but it doesn't matter what this disease is going to dish to you. I can just tell that you got the right attitude for it, whatever this disease brings to you. And I feel like Jessica's going to be right there with you because she seems like she's accepted this and she's got you, and that is just so huge, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Philip, thank you so much for coming on here and helping me out. I really appreciate you, buddy. I would love to have you on again. I love watching your videos. You put a smile on my face a lot when you put your videos up. I really appreciate you, buddy. And I would love to have you on again.
Oh, I'll definitely be back.
All right, buddy. All right, this is the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. Brian, I am going to get going. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64. You can also follow me on Facebook. I am out of Brunswick, Ohio, Brian Wallace. And I'm also on TikTok, MS Michigan Man 64. So you can get a hold of me, and I have a email, msmichiganman64@gmail.com, if you would want to be on the podcast to talk about your chronic disease. Until the next podcast, this is Brian. I am out.